Yeah, we back. Now today's gonna be a quick video, real quick video. I just want to respond to some detractors in the comment section. So I recently got a comment. I've been going in on Paul Kagame, and obviously the Paul Kagame coalition, the Paul Kagame fan club, gonna be in the comment section defending their mans. Now listen, the more you defend your mans, the harder I'm gonna place my foot on his neck, right? I got my foot on his neck and it's firmly planted. Now, recently, I think it was this white guy that came into my comment section. Now, I don't know that he's white. He had like an Anglophone name, and the picture on the profile was a bunch of white guys. So I'm assuming it's probably some white dude that's, a big fan of Paul Kagame. Maybe he might be an expat living in Rwanda. I don't know. But anyways, he's been really passionately defending Paul Kagame, right? And even one comment that he said was, how could you be in support of Ibrahim Traore and the nations in the Sahel, right? The AES, but you're against M23, right? Basically saying that because I'm a supporter of the AES, that I'm going to be supporter of every knucklehead with a gun and a military uniform. No, I'm a critical thinking black man. I can identify and examine each individual situation and make my assessment based on that. Because if you notice, recently in the past few years, it's not only been Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger that have had military takeovers. You also had Gabon had a military takeover, but I was not in support of that leader, because as soon as he got into power, he took a trip to France, right? He took a trip to France. He met up with Anthony Blinken at the State Department. So obviously I'm not rocking with that dude. He's obviously in the pocket of the Western imperialists. You also had the president of Guinea, right? He came to power in a military takeover, but I was not in support of that leader either, because number one, his wife is part of the French military. So obviously that's self-explanatory. So yeah, I'm not going to be in support of every black man with the military uniform and a gun on his waist, right? But anyways, I want to attack the topic. I want to basically today talk about why the M23 rebels that's backed by Rwanda and Kagame is not the same as the revolutionary military governments of the Sahel in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. And it's actually disrespectful to compare the two, right? First of all, the military takeovers that happened in the Sahel were bloodless coups, right? They were bloodless takeovers. Nobody was killed. Nobody was harmed. No women were sexually assaulted. They marched on the capital, went to the presidential palace, took over by the force of arms, and not a single person was shot. Not a single person was killed. Nobody was harmed. Unfortunately, you cannot say the same thing for the so-called M23 cartel that's backed by Kagame and Rwanda. Literally millions of black men, women, and children have died as a result of Paul Kagame's machinations and destabilization of the eastern region of the Congo. So that's the biggest difference between the two groups. You have one group that has not killed any black men and women on their road to power, and you have another group that has been killing black men and women for years and years and years. Now, the second biggest difference between the two is the nations in the Sahel, the revolutionary military governments in the Sahel, are kicking out the Western imperialists. They're fighting to take back control of their resources and their minerals, right? Recently, we saw in Niger, they kicked out the French multi-billion-dollar multinational corporation Orano. And in less than 6 months, the company collapsed and had to get a bailout from the French government. They cut off the supply to the natural resources. They cut off the supply to the critical minerals. In Burkina Faso, they're taking back the gold mines and establishing refineries to keep everything in-house. In Mali, you got to see me go to chasing down the CEOs, locking them up in prison. You have one CEO who just quit the company. He quit his job after getting locked up in Mali, right? He quit his job. He walked away from the company. So as you can see, the revolutionary governments in the Sahel, they are destabilizing the Western imperialists. They are destabilizing our European adversaries. And on the other side, the M23, you got a bunch of, mercenary gangsters, killing black people, looting the critical minerals and sending them off to Europe, right? Keeping the Western imperialists well fed, well stocked with the critical minerals, right? So on one side, you have a group of black men cutting off the supply to the critical minerals. And on the other side, you got a group of men shipping off the critical minerals to the Western supply chains. It's not the same. It's not the same. You got one group of black men fighting for sovereignty, and you got another group of men fighting for their own personal enrichment. So I would say that's the biggest differences between the two groups, right? You got one group that took power peacefully by the force of arms. Nobody got slaughtered in the streets. There were no mass graves. Nobody's villages got wiped out. No black woman got sexually assaulted, right? And you got another group of men, just barbarians, right? So you got one group of men fighting the real enemy, going head to head, toe to toe against the Western imperialists, right? Taking back the gold, taking back the oil, taking back the uranium, taking back the critical minerals, right? And then you got the other side doing the exact opposite, chipping off billions of dollars of critical minerals to the same Western imperialists. Also, another major difference is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have never attacked, have never destabilized, have never waged an offensive against their neighbors, even when those neighbors have been hostile to them. a pretext of Paul Kagame is saying that the reason why I'm destabilizing the Congo is because there are hostile elements in the Congo that I have to go chase down and eliminate, right? But there are also hostile elements that are surrounding the nations in the Sahel. A lot of Western governments. You have France, who's very active in the region. You got France, still got boots on the ground in the region, but they never attacked their neighbors. They never funded a military insurgency and destabilized their neighbors, right? They didn't attack Nigeria when they signed that deal with France. They didn't attack Ivory Coast because, you know, French soldiers and French military personnel going in and out of Ivory Coast, very active in Ivory Coast, very active in Benin. They didn't go attack those nations because of that. When the previous president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, who just got voted out of office, right? He just lost the election. When he was feeding intelligence to Anthony Blinken, to the United States government about the activity of the military governments in the Sahel, telling them what they doing, you know, behind their back, snitching to the white man, they didn't go attack Ghana because of that. And now Ghana got a new president who's way more friendly and way more open to the AES. So that's another major difference. The AES is not a destabilizing agent in their region, right? Kagame and his so-called various rebel militias throughout the past 20 years, whether it was the RCD, the CNDP, and now the M23, they've been destabilizing agents in that entire region of Africa. So that's another major difference, right? The AES is beloved on the continent, is beloved in the region, even by their neighbors who might have hostile governments. The populations of those countries, they love the AES. So as you can see, one movement is based in Pan-Africanism, the collective uplift and empowerment of black folks, African people. And another movement is based on, you know, tribal warfare, you know, tribal business, right? It got nothing to do with Pan-Africanism. That's tribal business. They don't care about Pan-Africanism. They don't care about the other Africans in the region. They care about money, power, control, and resource-rich territories for Paul Kagame. That is it. They're not fighting against the Western imperialists. They're not fighting against France. They're not fighting against the United States. They're not fighting against Western corporations. They're fighting against other blacks. They're massacring other blacks. They're wiping out villages inhabited by blacks. They're committing war crimes against blacks. And while the nations in the Sahel are shutting down the multinational corporations, the so-called M23 is helping them loot the Congo, right? They're foot soldiers helping the Western corporations and the Western supply chains loot and pillage the Congo, right? So while the Sahel nations are breaking away from Western control, the M23 is empowering Western hegemony, right? They're the reason why the Western nations have access to the gold and the coltan and the diamonds and everything else. Not only the Western imperialists, but also the Arabs too, right? Because Kagame is sending African gold to the Middle East as well. Not only to the white man, but he's sending it to the Arab man too. He's helping the Arab man pillage the African continent as well. So like I said, the AES and the M23 do not compare the two. It's very disrespectful to the honorable black men in the AES to compare them to the vagabonds of the M23. One group is starving and destabilizing the Western economies while the other group is feeding and empowering the Western economies. It's not the same, brother. It's not the same. Anyways, I would go deeper on this, but I got to start my day. I got to get to work. So anyways, man, it's your boy Never Card. That's Elaine back in the Billy. Yes, indeed. Cash app in the description. Support the channel, man. Support the album. Peace.
Told me she loved me and said that it's real. So independent, ain't signing no deal. Feel like a king and I'm up at Cap Henry. I'm in the citadel, top of the hill. Trying to run up and we let off a cannon. Secret location, I'm keeping it sealed. You ain't retaliate, Franco Medina. Came to the country and he got killed. You ain't retaliate, Rafi Mans. Thought you was loyal, thought you was real. Didn't even want to come pick up the body. Had your man locked up, he died in the cell. Up at the palace, I'm throwing a party. Right on the south and I'm giving them hell. And my little shorty, she looking exotic. African features, she casting a spell. Run to the check like I work on my fitness. Wake up each morning and handle my business. Said that she love me, she want my genetics. Wanna get married and make it official. Wanna get married and have my babies. Up in the city, I'm riding Mercedes. Up in the city, they treat me like royalty. Feeling like Dolph, talking about lords. Spreading my wings and I had to get fly. Up in the top, an incredible vibe. Came from the bottom, I'm up in the sky. Gave one look and said, baby, you fine. Wake up each morning and handle my business. They just be talking, you see me, I live it. Ride on my enemies, sounding like thunder. 1804, got that shit in my spirit. 1804 when I step in the building. 1804, that's word of my mother. Rock my women and die for my brother. Never gon' fall when I'm deep under pressure. Tell them we back and they better accept it. Move like a king, every step is divine. Ride on my enemies with no exception. Taking revenge and I'm taking what's mine. Pour up a drink and it's time that we toast. Watching my back, keep my enemies close. Only the family, I stick with my brothers. Cannon's position outside of the coast. Heavy artillery for the protection. Move like a general, stick to the code. Feel like a king when I'm up in the north. Beautiful women, they trying to get chose. Launch an invasion all over the south. Capture the capital with all my woes. Look at my energy and my demeanor, dripping that ice and that's head to my toes. Lately I'm flexing all on the Americans, flexing my muscle on missing my road. Just got a carriage just coming from London. Boy, that shit cash, I ain't taking no loans. Boy, that shit cash, that's fresh on the boat. Enemy know I got millions in gold. Enemy know I got choppers and cannons. How did I do it? They can't understand it. How did I do it? It's cause I'm relentless. Call me King Harry, my name is cemented. Call me King Harry, I'm up in the palace. Call me King Harry, I'm raising the status.